Hi, I'm Larry Puckett, the DCC guy. You know, one thing that I still get a lot of questions about from folks, especially after I do a sound decoder installation in a locomotive, is all about different types of speakers. So what I want to do today then is take a look at a wide range of different kinds of speakers that are great for use in DCC decoder installations in various scales of locomotives, ranging anywhere from N scale to HO, double O, O scale, whatever. I'm going to go ahead and give you a look at different types. So one thing I wanted to point out before we do get started is we just passed the 19,000 subscriber mark here with the channel. And if you haven't already, I'd like to ask you to go ahead, subscribe to the channel, and help me get to that 20,000 subscriber level. That's the next big thing that I'm looking forward to. So to do that, you know, there is a little red box down in the lower right-hand side of your screen. If you'll just click on that, and then when the little bell comes up, click on the bell and select all. And that will get you subscribed. Thanks a lot now. So let's go ahead and move on to take a look at some speakers. Well, now as I said, I do have a variety of speakers, a large number of them, and I probably have twice this many stashed in boxes here in the train room, more than I'm ever going to use. So I need to probably start selling some of this stuff on eBay. But at any rate, let's go ahead and take a look at the selection I've got here. For many years, the go-to speaker that everybody was using was the standard 1-inch round speaker. You could use it in a lot of different diesel locomotives and steam locomotive tenders, that kind of thing. And these, you know, they've improved greatly over the years. They've increased the bass response and done a lot of development work. And they're still widely used in a lot of commercial operations. A lot of the factory installed locomotives still come with these. And, you know, companies like BLI and Atlas and Athearn have all been using these for a number of years. And many companies still sell these as a primary product in their line. And most of the companies that make sound decoders also sell various kinds of speakers. That one right there is this one right here is a TCS Wow Sound speaker. It's your standard 8 ohm 1 watt speaker. And they also make a small enclosure for that. You can see this is a 3D printed enclosure. You can just pop it in here. You can put your speaker in this way, or you can have it facing down. I like it facing down because it protects the cone. And but they have included a couple of little pinholes here where you can run wires through if you prefer to flip it around and get it the other way. So that's another one of these 1-inch ones. They offer these, I believe, in different thicknesses, and I'll say something about the thickness here in a minute. And then, of course, you've got a wide variety of other sizes. So this one right here is a 3/4-inch soundtrack speaker, and something like that will fit in a narrow hood diesel, that kind of thing. And they make them even smaller than that for N-scale applications. And this one here, again, I think this is another 3/4-incher. Yes, it's the same as this one here. And this one comes with a little adhesive gasket already installed on the speaker. So you can just pull this off, stick it down to a tender or floor or something like that, and you're ready to go. It's already sealed in place. And you can also get these enclosures, and I'll show you those here in a minute. Soundtrax has been making these for many years, and the speaker will just fit right into it, and you can attach to it. They also are made stackable. So let's go ahead and take a look at those. So here's what I've got. You can see this one here is made for 1/2-inch speakers, and it's got two sections that you can stack one on another, a bottom with little holes in it for the wires, and then this top section here to hold your speaker in. And mounting screw holes. They also make it, for even much, much larger ones. This one here is a 28 millimeter size, so it grows great with one of these round 28 millimeter or 1 inch roughly speakers. Now, how do these work? Well, I have some here, some components, and I'll just spill those out. And you can see that they just fit together quite nicely. They're molded so they nest together, and you could just keep building them up, and you're only limited by the amount of room. Now, the rule of thumb that I used to follow with speakers was the enclosure needs to be as deep as the speaker is in diameter. So a 1 inch speaker technically on that basis would need to be at least 1 inch deep, like that, in order to get the best sound. But more and more now you'll find that companies are installing them with much, much smaller enclosures, like this one here from TCS. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. And I'll mention this one here in a minute. On this one, the enclosure, there just isn't any room at all behind the speaker. And this one had terrible sound. This came from a commercial installation, I'll say it, it was out of an Atlas RS1, I believe it was, and I replaced it with a Sugar Cube speaker, and it immediately sounded better. So it really does make a difference how much space you have behind your speaker. And there are other things that I'll show you in a minute that are important in this consideration. But at any rate, Soundtrax makes these enclosures. I think Tony's Trains makes some cast enclosures like this for various speakers. Of course, Loc Sound is making theirs for Sugar Cube speakers now. So there are a lot of different companies that are making various enclosures to go with various kinds of speakers. Let me put all this away. Now another thing, I showed you that this little speaker here comes with a gasket already installed on it for easy installation, and there's some others. This is a Digitrax speaker. It comes with one of these little gaskets. Soundtrax sells a wide variety of these adhesive gaskets for different sizes and shapes of speakers. So you can go to the Soundtrax website, soundtrax.com, and go to their store section, and you can look at all of the different types of gaskets and enclosures that they still have available now. Okay, let me get these out of the way. Okay, now the next thing that came into widespread use after the round speakers were these ovals. And there's a number of different ones. Like, all of these companies make their own version of the oval speaker. They typically, have a nice, long, thin shape to them. And they were very popular because they fit nicely inside of a hood unit diesel. And so they gained a lot of popularity. So that's why these became so popular, is a lot of people wanted to install these in diesel locomotives. And they're typically, you've got a plastic enclosure with screw mounts, all of these kind of things. That one does not have an enclosure on the back. And I'll show you what you can do for that. This is a similar one from TCS. It's probably about the same size, looks like it. So all of these different companies make them. This is another Soundtrax. This is 14 by 25 millimeters. This one here was 0.63 by 1.38 inches. So this is an older one, before they were talking in millimeters. And then we also have some other different versions of these. And this one here came with a little box enclosure. So it's a molded plastic enclosure for you to use. All you need to do is drill a couple of holes in the side and feed the wires out to your decoder, and you're ready to go with that. This particular speaker here actually came with the wires attached to it already. So it's a nice smaller one. And some of these would fit in an in-scale locomotive. Digitrex in particular makes this little guy here for a lot of their in-scale installations. And these come with the Digitrex in-scale decoders. And again, you can just peel that off, stick it to the inside of a tender or something like that, and you've got an automatic enclosure. Very quick and easy. Now I said that this one here, there is a speaker right in here. It's one of these small ovals, something like this one here. But it does not have any room in the enclosure behind the speaker. And that's very important. And I'll put a link to a video above me here where I discussed sometime in the past the importance of enclosures and how they contribute to the sound of various speakers. Now, another thing that has been developed over the last decade or so, I think, are these ported speakers. And you can see these are basically just an oval, standard oval speaker, different sizes here, different thicknesses, different shapes. And these are made by a company called Railmaster Hobbies. And you can look at their website, railmasterhobbies.com, and Litchfield Station also sells these. You can look that up on the internet. I believe it's litchfieldstation.com. And a number of other companies sell these for Railmaster Hobbies. So you can take a look at those. Now these are specially designed ported speakers, and they have a design inside here, a baffle, I believe. I've not opened one. Obviously, it still works. And basically what I've been told, though, is they have baffles in here, and then they've got this little port, round one and oval one here. And this helps produce more bass sound. So if you've got room in a tender, say, or in a hood unit diesel somewhere, you might be able to squeeze these in. And at least with O scale, you're bound to be able to do that. And to some degree with HO scale, they would fit. And they'll fit in tenders quite easily, though. Okay. So that's one thing to take a look at. I believe these are ported. They might also be referred to as high bass speakers by some companies. But I'll talk to you in a second about high bass speakers per se. So let's go ahead and take a look at those. Now these are what I would call a high bass speaker. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And what you can see here is they've got this nice metal can back here, or frame, whatever you want to call it. And then the diaphragm and a cone. Now this diaphragm is a vinyl rubber material, and it does allow the cone to move quite a bit, so it can really pump a lot of air out of a locomotive, and that air is what you perceive as sound. And you'll see that they've got this little metal cone here in the center. And all of these have that metal cone. This one here is painted black for some reason, but all the rest of these are your standard metal cones. I believe these probably are aluminum. And I believe you can find these also on the Railmaster Hobbies website. And again, these are what I would really call a high bass speaker. And they do really contribute to producing a very high bass frequency output. So they're great for steam locomotives. If you like a steamboat type whistle on your locomotive, these things are superb for that. And hopefully in a minute I'll be able to crank up a couple of steam locomotives and let you hear different ones. But, you know, they come in different sizes. You can see this little guy's about 3/4. That's about an inch, a little over. That one also, but this is about an inch. And then around 28 millimeter, roughly. So you can get all different sizes of these, and I highly recommend these. I am trying to replace all of the speakers in my steam locomotives with these high bass speakers because I'm so happy with the response that I get out of them. Okay, now, my favorite go-to speaker for diesels. These are sugar cube speakers of various and sundry kinds. So let's take a look at the basic sugar cube speaker. And here it is. So that's, I believe, an 11 by 15, sort of the standard of the industry these days. And this is a little 3D printed enclosure. So it's a shallow one, And you can see that the speaker just sits right on top of the edge. You put a line of super glue around here, put that in place and hold it to dry. And then once it's set up, I take a toothpick and paint super glue around the seam all the way around, and that gives it a much, much better seal, and you're going to get much better sound. I've known people that use liquid rubber and various other things, epoxy, whatever, to get that good tight seal. Now that's the fairly shallow one. These 3D printed speaker enclosures like this and the speaker itself are available from a company called Streamline Backshop, SBS, the numeral 4, DCC.com. Or just do a Google search for Streamlined Backshop, and that'll get you there. So as you can see, this one here is a bit deeper, and that's the one that I would typically use in most diesel installations. This one here, the enclosure is from Tony's Trains, and in this one, the speaker sits down into a little recess here in the enclosure, and then there's a ridge cast in around it. So it just sits in, and that's as far as it'll go. So it sits flush instead of sitting up high. And these are nice. I've used a number of these in installations, and they're stackable. So you can stack these, and it should give you more bass the deeper the enclosure is. Now, Streamline Backshop, as I said, makes a lot of these 3D printed designs. So like this one here, that's the shallow version. This is the deeper version, and you can put two of these sugar cube speakers next to one another and get twice as much sound out. They also make this one, which I use a lot in diesel locomotives, because it'll fit nicely into the cab roof on a diesel or a steam locomotive. And I've found these to be very good. They produce very well over a wide range of frequencies, and even get down into the low frequency bass response. And you just, they come with a cutout, and the speaker just sits right down in there. So they basically, you just put some super glue around the edges, slide it in, and you're done. And that fits great inside the cab, like I say, of both diesels and steam locomotives. He makes these with room for two speakers side by side and fairly thin, but your cab has to be deep enough in order to accommodate that size right there. He also makes it so that they're side by side this way. And because of that, it has to be a lot deeper. So it's about twice as deep as this one almost. So you might take a look at these, because you can double the amount of sound that you're going to be getting out of any installation, or if you have the depth or the length for these to fit. In most installations, I go ahead and just use a single speaker like this one here, and I found that to be more than adequate. Now, the last one I want to show you, and it comes out of Zemo. And basically what this is, it's a fairly large, as you can see comparing to this one, it's much, much larger, something on the order of 13 by 18, I believe, something like that. And that one just sits right in here, and then you've got this nice 3D printed enclosure that has a lot more room behind the speaker itself. So you get a much, much better bass response. So this one fits in a lot of steam tenders, that kind of thing. And I've been trying this out in a couple of cases. And in the future, I'll show you an installation where I'm going to be using one of these in the tender of a locomotive to get that higher bass sound. Okay, well, that's about it for the range. So we've got round speakers, we've got oval speakers, we have high bass speakers, both round and square, and then we've got all kinds of sugar cube speakers and their various enclosures. Now the sugar cubes, because they come in a wide range of sizes, you can get these very, very small that will fit into in-scale locomotives, and you can go up to something much larger than this. This is called a Zemo Dumbo, and I got this one again from Streamline Backshop, And this comes in this size. This size right here is 20 by 26 millimeters. They also make this in 20 by 40 millimeter sizes. And they make this with two speakers mounted here on the enclosure. They make one that is actually 22 by 55 millimeters, so they can get quite large. And with something that large, you're probably going to be getting a very good bass frequency response. Okay, let's go ahead and move on and take a look at some steam locomotives that I have out here behind me, some of which I've already installed the high bass speaker in. So I'm going to move over and we'll take a look at what's behind me on the track. Now what I have here is my collection of NW J-Class locomotives, and I have them from 3 different manufacturers. This one here up front is a brass locomotive that I purchased about 25 years or so ago. And this is the one that I have installed a high bass speaker in. And I'll tell you right up front that the speaker is mounted underneath of this coal load and is facing up. And I put that coal load in there in a way that allows the sound to propagate upwards through the coal. This one behind it here is a BLI locomotive, Broadway Limited, and it came without a sound decoder in it. So I installed a TCS sound. I believe all of these except one have a TCS sound decoder in them. This one has a speaker mounted right here underneath of the coal load, and this is a plastic coal load, and I just drilled a bunch of holes in it to let the sound out. Okay, the next one in the line here is one of the Bachmann J-Class models. Now one thing you'll notice about these, every one of these, the stripe is a different color. This one right here is one that I got the paint from a fellow in Roanoke, Virginia, who got it from a local paint shop that made it for the railroad. So I'm fairly certain that this one is accurate. The Bachmann is a little bit orange as far as I'm concerned. The 2 BLI locomotives are a bit on the maroon side. So I don't know. It's a matter of personal choice, whichever way you go. But if you look at the old color videos available, I think this is the closest and most accurate. So this one here is a BLI locomotive with a TCS decoder in it. This one is the Bachmann with a TCS decoder in it as well. And finally, this one back here, the BLI, has the original BLI sound decoder and the speaker that they come with. And these two are the only two here where the sound comes up through the coal load. The others, the sound is going out the bottom of the tender. So that probably makes it a little bit different. I'm going to take my mic offline and hook up my Rode shotgun microphone, and we'll get a much better sound from the steam locomotives that way. Okay, I'm going to start here in the back with the BLI locomotive with its sound package or original sound decoder, and I'm pretty sure that this one has a flat round speaker like the first ones I showed you. So let's turn that on and crank up the bell and the whistle. Okay, we'll turn that one off and move on to the second one in line, and this is the Bachmann locomotive with the TCS decoder and a flat speaker. And that is the steamboat whistle selected in that case. Okay, the next one in line is a BLI locomotive with a TCS decoder and a flat speaker. And that whistle is one that they had available that was specific to the N&W locomotives, as opposed to the steamboat whistle version. Okay, let's go ahead and move up to number 610 here. So let's try the bell first. And now for that steamboat whistle with the high bass speaker. And that's similar to the steamboat whistle that is used currently on the Excursion number 611 J-Class locomotive. The original whistle that was used for many years on that Excursion locomotive belonged to the Clater family, and they took it back. And so for a lot of the Excursion work, they've been using I believe a Southern Pacific steamboat type whistle. And I do like that sound. I use it a lot on my steam locomotives. Well, that's a wrap for today's video. I hope that gives you a better feeling for the variety of speakers that are available on the market today and the types of installations that you can use them in. So before we close, I want to remind you one more time, help me get to 20,000 subscribers in the next month. If you haven't already, click on the little red subscribe button down on the right-hand side of your screen, and when the bell comes up, click on it and select all. And that'll get you subscribed, and you'll get me one person more closer to hitting that 20,000 mark. So have a great weekend, and we'll see you here next week with some more videos from the DCC Guy. Bye now.